Cloud. Hello and welcome to the Kubeflow community meeting for the 2nd and 3rd of November 2021. There's a couple of agenda items here. There's getting retrospective information from the 1.4 release of Kubeflow. There's lots of stuff still happening on the conformance program. We'll discuss that later. There's a few PRs that I've raised here about on the website, which we've closed out some of them in the last hour or so, but there's still a few more to kind of try and get through. And I think once these emerge, the website will be a lot cleaner. Then we've got a kind of a lingering issue from a long time ago, which was we need to archive a lot of old repos that are just sitting there and looking like they're active when they're not. And also we've got this some sort of update or something from the Peritus CTO. So we'll start off with retrospective doc. So what I was asked to tell everyone is just in the next week, we're going to make a summary document for this. So if you have feedback on 1.4, please, or more so I think the release process or the release itself, I guess, maybe not issues with the product, but release itself. Make any comments you want here or under what went well, what didn't go well, what not. So yep, that would be useful if everyone could do that. Awesome. Anyone got anything they want to say about that? Anyone on the release team here who wants to give an update on what they're planning to do here, or is there? Don't think so. I don't think anyone on that. This is one of the problems with this time zone, that it's not accessible to that whole release team. Okay. Yep, so we'll just move on to the next one, which was there was some typos, James, in that thing. I think there was a PR that you raised that was merged kind of accidentally.
I'm working on a fix. Yeah.
Okay, cool. It was nothing. Well, there was some debate about other things, but I was mostly just debating like, I think this is not a Kubeflow application, it's Kubernetes, whatever, stuff like that.
So those are pretty easy to fix. I'm actually mainly kind of just talking to other folks about the other comments.
Oh, you mean the ones from this guy, Andrew?
Yeah,
I'm not sure. I mean, it's not like, I think he definitely has the same opinions that other people have had, that we changed a lot of the other stuff for that first iteration. But I think maybe he's asking it to be more clearly stated out. But I guess that was the whole point. Like, this was meant to be a doc that says we're going to do this, and then we actually make the actual requirements by going to each of the working groups and asking them, right?
That is for the distribution conformance, right?
So, oh yes, sorry, the application, the Kubeflow native one. Okay.
Yeah.
Because I think this whole Kubeflow native thing can be quite a powerful marketing tool if we do it right, because other applications, if we become a desirable thing to be certified as that, it would be nice to have really big products like BigQuery to say we're Kubeflow native or things like that.
Yeah. So I was looking up like Kubernetes native, like what it means to be Kubernetes native, right? I don't think there's like an official definition, but like one definition is like like the application can be managed by the Kubernetes APIs, right? So that's one definition. The other definition could be like can be managed by the Kubernetes tooling, I think was another one. Things along those lines. So trying to map it to Kubeflow. So one thing I'm thinking is like, if an application can be managed by the Kubeflow control plane, right? I think we can say it's Kubeflow native, or integrates well with Kubeflow tooling. But I don't think we have too much tooling today. So maybe that's the non-issue.
Do we even have a control plane? Like, the control plane is really Istio to a large extent.
Well, Istio is the network, right?
And that is the majority. Like, that is pretty much the only thing holding Kubeflow together to some extent.
Sure, from a framework perspective. I mean, that's not Kubeflow, right? So.
Oh no, yeah, of course. So that's what I'm thinking, right? Is the point of Kubeflow native? What do you see the point of this being? Like, I think of it as a marketing thing, which says, we build an ecosystem which says we're not going to control the world. We don't want to. There are applications which people can and do use with Kubeflow, and we just want to say the ones which we think work really well with Kubeflow in the same cluster specifically are these certified ones. And I think that's what the idea, at least in my mind, was. Maybe that wasn't what your idea was.
I think that can be a goal. You know, I'm not. Yeah, I mean, I think that's a reasonable goal. But the question is, how do you define work really well, right? Because you can install any Kubernetes application, right, in the same cluster as Kubeflow.
This is true.
Right. So it needs to call some like Kubeflow APIs or be called by some Kubeflow APIs, right, to say that it works with Kubeflow.
And also like, I mean, in some stuff that I'm working on, like, it kind of means being in Kubeflow, you can put anything in the central dashboard if you just run it under a subdomain, or if it's possible under a slash. So like, the thing I guess could be that it can read an auth header or something for the UIs.
So what does that give you?
Well, it's more like because I think the key thing that I've been running into, and I've been upstreaming some stuff into Argo to make this work, Argo workflow, so I'm working on it right now, that the two things that you need to be able to do to say you're using it with Kubeflow is see it in the UI, and also secondarily use it with Kubeflow components like pipelines, like we're talking about, right? To be able to see it in the UI, which could also not necessarily be in central dashboard, but a link in central dashboard, you want to at least have it have not a separate permission system. So it should respect the permission system of Kubeflow so that you only manage your users one place. And that's and since we manage them in RBAC, like in role bindings, with your username being your email for the login of the user, since that's the case, then anything which can do that is by definition supporting that. Most applications that are on Kubeflow that are Kubernetes native do something similar to that, but not all.
Yeah, so if you're in the UI, then I guess additionally, like you could say that you need to respond to the namespace selector.
But I think that might be asking too much of these external apps. Like these are like actually external apps. The namespace selector is not secure either. So I imagine, and again, the way that these apps do it is if they support SSO or OIDC, what they'll do is they will, so Kubeflow itself and all the apps that are under Kubeflow, like pipelines, notebooks, Katib, whatever, those UIs are secured behind one token provided by whatever your distribution is doing. That could be through OAuth 2 proxy, which is then relaying to DEX or relaying to something else. But you'll have some proxy that Istio is asking, is this cookie a valid token? And now every other really external app like Mini.io, Argo, Workflows, those UIs will have their own login flows. And what I'm saying here is, this is too detailed technically, but what I'm trying to say is like, I don't think we should expect external applications to change their auth systems to support our thing. I think instead, maybe we just define some minimum requirements that they can retrieve the auth that we have defined in RBAC, so that you can use the same login. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, well, I think so. One thing with that is, I'm just playing devil's advocate. I think it's pretty hard to verify that.
Oh yeah,
like in an automated way, especially.
Oh no, you can't. This would be this is like a curated. No, I expect the number of Kubeflow native apps to be like 10, maybe, if you're lucky. Like the concept would be, these are like apps that the Kubeflow community strongly endorses and says, we're not going to make a competitor to this, or we don't intend to, at least right now. So you should use this with Kubeflow.
That's much stronger, I think.
Because anything we'd say Kubeflow native is going to be an endorsement in a large extent, right? Like that's what it's going to be. Like,
but the part you said, like, we're not going to create like competing products. I think that's,
well, we're not agreeing not to, but we're just, you know.
I don't think we have the resource to create a competing product, but okay. I think I'm somewhat kind of sympathetic to like making like UI part of it. Your other point about like MLflow, for example, right? So that's a different. So that's like a library, right? That you use maybe within like notebooks or things like that. It does have a UI component, I think.
It does, yeah.
Right? So are we saying if you integrated your UI server into Kubeflow dashboard, then
well, that's trivially easy. I think it's more like once that happens, not even that. It's just simpler than that. Like currently MLflow in my mind would not be eligible because it has no multi-user auth support.
Sure.
And that's why I can't recommend it right now. At some point in Kubernetes in general, because it's just not secure. Like it's unless you're trusting everyone in the same way that's using it, it's clearly not a very secure app. Right? So like this weird, right? Admin type thing. So like they could fix that, and then they could be Kubeflow native. And I think that would also be a useful thing for the ML on Kubernetes community as a whole. But you do raise a point, which is that there are other things that we say work well with Kubeflow, like libraries, like the library component of MLflow, or Spark, or just things like that run on Kubernetes, but are not. I think maybe we might have encountered, this might not be a very useful certification program. Maybe what we should do is pivot it back to your original idea and again, rename it from Kubeflow native to Kubeflow pipeline certified. And just because I think that is one thing which we can all agree on is that if we have certified components in Kubeflow pipelines for really important external apps, like I am sure Amazon would jump at the bit to get a certified Redshift Kubeflow component.
Pipeline component. Right.
Yeah, sorry, Kubeflow pipeline. You know what I'm saying? Like that would be great for them. It's great for us because it means that they don't get lots of, I know that they get a lot of questions, you know, about how do I use Redshift and how do I use XYZ on Kubeflow? Like that's a problem for them. And since there's no certification program or just endorsement program in general, like if we made a library, we have like this really messy repo folder in the Kubeflow pipelines, which is like the official library, but they're not versioned. So there's no change log on them. So they can't actually be used in production without the risk of them suddenly changing under your feet.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? Even for that, we probably want to ensure some kind of like testing documentation, right, on the component. Because you know, if it doesn't work, if it's still like a pipeline native component doesn't work, then it's not a, you know, it doesn't make a good first impression, right?
I think it would be certified in this case. I don't think native makes the right sense for the word. I think you'd be like Kubeflow pipeline certified or something.
Right. If you say certified, I would. Okay.
Because the point would be that the number wouldn't be super big, but there would be some, like, I think it improves the overall experience of using Kubeflow pipelines substantially. If there's that level of, like, you know, like Docker Hub has some official images, you know, on Docker, but there are, anyone can upload one, obviously, but like there is some official ones. And I think that would be the concept here. We'd build some sort of library system. I don't know. That's just my idea there. I'm not sure that Kubeflow native is super useful because I don't know how many apps would even meet the definition right now or be able to.
Yeah.
If we focused it on like libraries that work well with Kubeflow notebooks and libraries that work well with Kubeflow pipelines as two separate certification programs, I think those are probably the place to attack it. Maybe. And libraries in the sense of components. I don't know. That's just my idea. I'm not sure.
I'm not sure either. Let me give this some more thought. But I will make the editorial changes that you raised in the thread. So
I think under its current definition, Kubeflow native may never actually be certifying anything. That's kind of anyway. Anyone else want to talk? Sorry, there's been a lot of back and forth between me and James here. Anyone? Andre, James, Josh, Jan? Anyone want to say anything? Okay. Well, I mean, I think it's productive anyway. These PRs are just things I wanted to highlight. So if you have capacity to, there's only one that isn't really, oh no, this one is okay. I do want to talk about this one, which is guides. This is a controversial one. It was controversial to begin with, but effectively this PR here moves, it creates a new section called guides and splits up the installing Kubeflow page into installing Kubeflow distributions and installing manifests. This is not to demean any distribution, which is anything that's currently called a distribution, that it's just to say that it's more adequate to describe them as manifests. But also, so I made two main points I wanted to make here, and I don't think there's enough people here to really have this discussion, but the points I was making are that I don't want kubeflow.org to be seen to be endorsing using Kubeflow, a specific Kubeflow distribution for a specific platform. And the current wording of the docs says Kubeflow for Amazon, Kubeflow for Google. And that is in the same way that Kubernetes doesn't say, you should use GKE because it's the best, or you should use EKS because it's the best. They say, here are our partners, and this is what they offer. You use, and we certify some of them. We should do the same. And in the interest of keeping those old docs on the website, rather than just deleting them, I think the best approach would be to make a guide section and then move all the distributions into there. And I think this is really a decision for Google, to be honest. Jan or James, have you had a chance to look at this kind of proposal? I think it's been discussed for months, but like, yeah. Because Google owns the Kubeflow brand, if you want to call it
that. So sorry, I was distracted actually while you're talking.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, Jan, yeah.
Yeah.
Jan?
So this is Yuan. I think I like this idea. I haven't been able to follow up on that PR yet. So I'll take a look and reply further. So I thought that in previous community meetings, we have discussed this change a few times, and looks like people agreed on that. What are the existing like controversial points?
Well,
there?
I think, I mean, you can see, I think the main thing is that people, I understand this perspective, but I think it's a bit overblown. I think people are saying like, oh, like you're preventing the official owners of these platforms from endorsing things. And I'm saying my response to that is you are completely free to use your current PR channels to endorse a distribution for your platform. Of course, we're not saying you can't, but on kubeflow.org, we must be neutral. That's kind of my perspective on this. And I think like IBM, someone from IBM, not IBM itself, was claiming that, you know, they wanted to, you know, here's my response to them here, but like, which is, and I think and the reason I'm so hard on this point, by the way, is not because I'm like, oh, I hate your distribution or anything like that. It's more, we constantly get issues raised on Kubeflow/Kubeflow that say, I'm following the Amazon guide and it's not working properly, or things like that, when in reality, there's not supported distributions. There's no real place to ask about them at all, because it's just, they're seen to be part of Kubeflow. I don't know. That's part of it, but it's also, I don't want to set the precedent of we have to let everyone who wants to endorse, you know, who gets to endorse otherwise. And I think Kubeflow.org should be a neutral place, just like Kubernetes.io. But yeah, those are the only controversial point is that, you know, we're moving things, I think. But yeah, if you can look at it, Jan, I would be very, very grateful, because I think it will solve a lot of issues.
I think one, I guess one thing that people feel confusing is that in the first section, we say that these distributions will have their respective maintainers to support them. And in the second section, we say that Kubeflow community does not support these environment-specific issues there. So, but for example, if we consider the IBM Cloud case, actually there are maintainers for it. So I guess that's when we are actually endorsing the distributions more than those manifests.
Well, we do explicitly say we don't endorse them, but what we're saying is that we're trying to distinguish between, you know, think about it this way. There are many guides, some written by Googlers even, that describe how to install Kubernetes on Google Cloud, but there is only one GKE, you know what I mean? Like, it's you know, many Googles in fact famously have discussed how to install Kubernetes on Google Cloud, but like the concept is that there is a difference, and that especially when you're just using the Kubeflow/manifests repo, you're not really doing much. Maybe you're supporting it, maybe you're doing awesome stuff, that's cool, but what I'm saying is it's not a separate product then. It's just a guide for using our stuff. If they wanted to make, so I said to IBM, like, if you believe you're doing something that's distinct, I said, please, like, let's like give it a name. Let's give it a name, and then let's move it to there. You know what I mean? Like, and move it into a distribution section. But in its current state, it's really just a fork of the Kubeflow/manifests.
Yeah, that's probably, I think that probably makes sense. So
anyone can put a distribution here, to be clear. Yeah. But yeah, if your distribution is just a wrapper around Kubeflow manifests, I think that's where I was drawing the line. I was like, I don't, because it was causing, and it is causing problems because these weren't updated and a bunch of other things. And at some point, we're going to be removing all distribution specific manifests from Kubeflow manifests anyway, if not already. I think it's already happened.
I still feel a little hesitant of saying that this is the right way to fix this issue. It seems like I think like deploying manifests on AWS doc hasn't been updated since 1.2. Should we just remove it instead?
So this was what I was saying. The two options are we either remove them or we do this. But I think that actually Amazon has been slightly updating it recently, but it is important to for reference, by the way, I have for Kubeflow blueprints on Google Cloud, I've just named it what your repo is called. So you're still up here because you're actually not using Kubeflow manifests directly, at least you're wrapping them in a separate sort of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, if IBM believes that they're not doing that, then I'm more than happy for them to make a distribution doc up here. It's just in its current state, I don't think it is. In the same way that anyone could, like, it's not, you know, we don't have a certification program yet. Obviously, once we have a certification, once the distribution program is available, only certified ones will be able to be listed here. Yeah, anyway, so that's my thought. Yeah.
Discussion in that PR. I think there are several other options to explore.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to discuss. It's been going for months anyway, so why not a couple more weeks? So yeah, other than that, if anyone else want to comment on that one, because yeah, that's really the only one I wanted to highlight here strongly. Maybe other than if someone has a lot of time, please look at the about one, because we've merged everything else now. But the restructure of about, like, Kubeflow.org is looking really snazzy, I think. So we got new nav bar at the top here, nice drop down. We've removed the reference section, which was so out of date, it was ridiculous. The only remaining out of date section is about, and this is the PR to do that. I guess I need to rebase because they're conflicting things, but
yeah, the only comment I would make about the docs is that talk to Shannon, and we kind of made a goal to merge in one PR a week at least. So there were like several fairly good sized PRs that were outstanding on the docs, and we thought if we could at least get one done a week, that would be a goal. If we can get more than that, great. But that's the request.
Oh yeah, so actually I forgot there was one vote here. I guess everyone in the meeting, if everyone can vote what they want here, this would be good. So I don't really have an opinion either. Well, I don't have a slight opinion, but I won't say it here. Effectively, there are two. So the only thing holding this merging is that rather than, so right now on Kubeflow.about, I mean, it's really out of date, but we have one page which links to everything from like Kubeflow community calls, Slack channels, whatnot. What I was proposing in this PR is that we create a new section for each major community entry we have under about. And so what that results in is the about page looks like this, rather than one for each. And my reasoning behind that was that at some point I want to put lots more information about those things in here and have this be the landing page for the Slack. If you Google Slack Workspace, like right now, Google does link you to the subsection. Maybe it doesn't really, but like other projects are doing this where they have a page for Slack, like Argo, for example. If you go like Argo Slack, like they have this kind of page here, which splash screen says, here's the Slack, here's some interesting things you might want to do. Whereas right now we have like this link under here, but which isn't even up to date for the invite. So I've removed all the other invites in this PR as well and linked them all back to this one instead of everyone maintaining their own invite links. So there's only one. But yeah, so that's probably the only one. So if you have a vote, thumbs up on this one if you prefer a single community page, and this one if you want separate ones. I'll link it in the chat. Obviously, you can think about it. You don't have to do it right now. But yeah, so that's that one there. So I'd love to get that one merged because it removes a bunch of really out-of-date stuff. Cool. Anyone got any comments about that one, or any, like Jan, you're here, I guess.
I don't have any particular comments, so I want to hear other people's opinions on these too.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not against either way. It's just, yeah, I mean, I think this way will, longer term, I like the idea of splash pages, but I don't know. Cool. Now, other than that, there is some stuff about pipelines, but I think you're looking at that at some point when you get time, Jan, because I cleaned up some of the very confusing pages on the new external token feature. Sorry, the new internal service account token feature for authoring pipelines. And that's it for that one. Okay. Archiving repos. Is anyone who has admin willing to just go through this one and do the ones that people have said here? Like, is this one been archived? No. James or Jan, are you wanting to?
I think James Lu would take this task.
Yeah, I will start working on that and archiving the ready to archive repos.
Yeah, there's a couple here that I think are still, yeah, most of these haven't been archived.
I haven't get started yet, but I will get started on that.
Cool. It's cool. It's just something we need to follow up on at some point. And now, anyone else got anything else they want to raise before we move on to the final topic about repos and other things? Nope. Okay, cool. If you want to introduce yourself and what this is, because I'm not entirely familiar.
Sure.
Santosh?
Yeah. Thanks, Matthew. Yeah, so I'm Santosh Srinivasan, the co-founder of Peritus.ai. We're an ML platform for community-led growth. So last week, I got an opportunity to present what we do. So what we work on is we are trying to reduce the friction in communities to help the community to accelerate quickly. And what I demonstrated last week, I have links to the video, and thanks Josh and Matthew for having that archived on YouTube, is how I demonstrated the entire product. Happy to do it here if you have time today. And what we do is, if questions are coming from Slack, if you ask the question to our Slack assistant, we give a list of recommendations. And we are sourcing these recommendations from your documentation, blog posts, your GitHub issues, Slack self-referential. For that, we need to get this moving forward. And anywhere else you think you have a presence. When I looked at it on Stack Overflow, there are some questions, but not a lot compared to, let's say, some of the other open source projects. So somewhat related to your previous topic, 2 topics ago, where you're talking about this about section, you have a lot of channels to engage with Kubeflow. The primary one today is Slack for the end user community. And for developers, it's mostly GitHub. And it could spread and have other places. We are consolidating all of that knowledge in one place so that when people have questions, we help answer that. We're already working with several CNCF projects, Argo being the primary one. And what happens in these channels, for example, is a question could come. Since Argo is a workflow engine on top of Kubernetes, it could be a Kubernetes question or Helm question. And when we analyzed the Slack channels, we found out 43% of questions were never answered, not even a single response. And for the remaining 57%, if you did not get a response in the first hour, it was unlikely you're going to get a response. So these are patterns we observe it. So it's somewhat induced friction because everybody is busy. And in Slack, when you start your day, you'll just scroll through things. You may not pay attention to everything because you have things to do. So we bring all of those things, features where we nudge people to say, hey, there is an unanswered question, or we have them go take a look at some of our recommendations to see if it helps so people can make progress. And we complement that by giving you analysis for maintainers to say, here is where the community friction is. Here are the topics where they're getting stuck. So you can use that to either create documentation, prioritize bugs, or plan anything else you want to do around it. So that's pretty much what we do. And what I've listed here is how we can engage with the community. I've just said, hey, here is all the content we know about Kubeflow, the first step. And if you have more things, please add that. And we have adapters that support some of the standard channels, and some we can prioritize based on the community's needs. And then you just need to install our Slack assistant and Slack connector. And after that, just use it and give us feedback. It's free, completely free for open source projects. And at some point, if you decide, hey, this is not working, you want to remove, I just added a section there to make sure that there's an option to just take it out if it's not working for the community.
Cool. I'm gonna ask one question just to the sanity check here is, so how are you making money and why do you give away your product for free?
Yeah, so very good question. So we work with enterprises to give them the community intelligence, and we help community managers who are running commercial entities with offerings. And this is an entry point for people to use the product and make sure that the right people are using it. And it's a machine learning algorithm, so we benefit from, as you use the product, we get better. And our main purpose is also to prove that this product works. And I think, Matthew, when we were chatting earlier, as I mentioned, I come from an open source background. I was a very early engineer in the Hadoop team at Yahoo, and I've been in the open source community for about nearly a decade and a half. So I've seen these friction points periodically, both on the, let's say on the Yahoo Hadoop side versus the Cloudera commercializing side. And that's what led me to build a company around this.
So yeah, I think obviously this really is a decision for Google for multiple reasons. One is because the legal risk is on them to some extent. So like the privacy policy stuff, like there will be privacy implications, I imagine, for do you have to sign especially in Europe, to be able to go into the Slack, are you going to have to sign a terms of service? You know what I mean? Things like that. This is my initial thought. Sorry, this only the danger in my mind might be that someone might sue someone over that. But it sounds like an interesting idea, and I love the idea of it. I think a lot of our problems are quite foundational with the platform itself, and we are slowly working through them. But I think some of the issues, it may not give you really good signal at the moment, just because almost all the issues are related to installing and maintaining Kubeflow. Mm-hmm. And those are there are projects that are working on that, and we've made as a project we have worked on that, like refactoring the manifest repo, doing a bunch of other things, improving the docs, guides, and other things we just talked about. But we definitely have more to do there. So most people are still on very old versions and encountering problems with them. Mm-hmm. But I like the idea. I'm not the one who makes the decision though. I think probably Thea is the one who would really in the end make the decision. Jan or James, if you want to chime in there. Hello, James or Jan.
Yeah, I think this is, hello, hi.
Hey.
Yeah, I think this is something that Thea needs to be in the loop about. Yeah, there may be some privacy issues that she needs to basically think about.
Yep. I'm sure it's solvable. It's just these are problems that you have to encounter when you're dealing with super big companies that are really attractive lawsuit targets.
I see. Yeah, we are already working with the CNCF community. We are already installed on the CNCF Slack workspace, and we're also working with some of the projects in the Kubernetes Slack workspace. So it's happening. So we're happy to work with whatever are the community guidelines. That's the reason I created the GitHub issue. And if you can point me to the right person or you have questions, I can answer them. Yeah.
So sorry, did you say that the Kubernetes Slack channel is also adopting this tool?
We are working with several different open source projects in the CNCF umbrella. And I'm presenting this at different community meetings. Like I'm working with the Harbor community. Argo is already kicking the tires, working with the Kubernetes community, which is in the Kubernetes Slack workspace. And I've given a demo to, John Beta. He's seen the product before, and he's also shown other version of our product in one of his, thank God it's Kubernetes sessions that he has done. He does that once in every 2 weeks on Fridays, I guess. So we've talked to enough people. We also presented this to the CNCF CTO to make sure that this is something valuable to the community. What we are helping is trying to figure out where is friction within a community. We do also help with benchmarking to see where is the efficiency coming in, what's the benchmark, and then try to find out hotspots so that friction is something you can prioritize. And on the end user side, if you have people, what we found out is people ask questions and nobody's answering. So that's not a good user experience for people. So we'd rather give them some help. And then for maintainers who really want to see what's happening, we can help them say, hey, here are some unanswered questions. If you want to jump in, or if you want to ignore it, that's fine.
Yep. I think also there is a slight issue, which is that there's a very loose connection between the developers of the components of Kubeflow and people deploying Kubeflow. So like, there's like this, it's kind of like Kubernetes, right? Like no one talks to the guy making, kubedns, or every other component, not mini, what's it called? etcd. Like most people will talk to their vendor. And I don't know if we obviously are somewhere between those two things, but like, that may be kind of more of a, like most problems that people are going to have are going to be really specific to their distribution, probably initially. Again, those things may change, but yeah. I don't know. I'm excited to get anything that will help us sort through the channels, because I can see a lot of, I'm in every single Slack channel because I just like to look at them, and most of them have lots of unanswered questions. You are correct. And I think especially if we start pumping the Slack in its own page on the about section, it will, like the joining amount will, like right now it's almost impossible to join unless you are actively seeking to join it.
I was one of those people actively seeking to join, and I was able to join. With Argo that you pointed out earlier, I actually had to point out when I wanted to join, they had links to their old workspace and they migrated to CNCF and then they revamped it. Now it's much better.
Oh wait, do they not have their own one anymore?
It's there, but it's defunct.
Oh.
Yeah, they're part of the CNCF Slack workspace, and they have 5 or 6 channels where they're active.
Oh yeah, I can see like Argo, because I'm on that one as well. Okay, cool. Anyway, yep. So that's useful. James, I'm not sure what the next step is to deal with that, but that sounds interesting. I mean, maybe honestly, it might even be something where you set up a meeting with Thea and James or something. Is that something that she would do?
Yeah. So I'll discuss with Thea like internally first.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course. Awesome. But yeah, thanks for presenting that. Cool. Anything else anyone wants to say before we stop recording? Okay, I will stop recording. Thanks guys for coming or watching. I will hopefully get time to make an issue about moving the time of the meeting. So that will be good. So thanks guys.